Hi, I'm Andy Wible, and welcome to Timely Topics. Today I'm talking with Judy Simonson about Proposal 2. Welcome to the show, Judith.
Thank you.
Tell me about Voters Not Politicians, which you represent, and Proposal 2.
Okay. I am a volunteer with Voters Not Politicians. Voters Not Politicians started with a Facebook post shortly after the November 2016 election.
Mm-hmm.
And our leader, Katie Fahey, set out a post saying, is anybody interested in tackling gerrymandering in Michigan? And we now probably have somewhere around 5,000 volunteers throughout the state.
Yeah.
We collected 425,000 signatures last year on a petition. And it's important to understand that all of the petition gatherers were volunteers.
Which is unusual, right?
Highly unusual.
Usually
They're paid.
you hire someone to do it for you. Yeah.
That's right. We were all volunteers. One of the opponents of the proposal commented that where two or more were gathered, there was a Voters Not Politicians person with a petition. And so we collected those petitions within 4 months. We had 6 months to do it, but we collected within 4 months. We needed 654. We got 425,000. We've survived a challenge in the Michigan Supreme Court, and Proposal 2 is on the ballot. It will establish an independent citizens redistricting commission. And what it'll do is redraw the districts after the 2020 census for the United States House of Representatives and the State House and the State Senate.
Okay. So this is, you mentioned the word gerrymandering and how this will change gerrymandering. So redistricting is, let's first start there and then we'll get to the gerrymandering. Redistricting is done every 10 years, is that right?
Every 10 years after the census, all the states redraw their districts. People move, population shifts.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a state will gain a district or lose a district in the United States House of Representatives, so it'll be done in 2011.
Okay, so that was it.
2021, excuse me.
2021, so
Right.
after the 2020 census.
Yes, correct. Thank you.
Okay. And so I think there are 435 seats in
Yes.
the House of Representatives, and that's always the same number. And
Yes.
it's depending on politician or populations that
Right,
states will change how many they have.
right.
So, and gerrymandering, how does that word connect to redistricting?
Well, back in 1812, the governor of Massachusetts, whose name was Elbridge Gary, signed off on a map of voting districts, and one of them looked like a salamander. And so the newspaper pundits at the time coined the term gerrymandering, combining his name and salamander, and it's been used ever since.
Yeah, well, hey, one way to be famous.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know if he's proud of it or not, but that's how we got the term.
Okay, and so currently redistricting is done by who?
The party in power at the time the census is taken. So every 10 years, whichever party is in power draws the districts, and they draw them to benefit themselves. Both parties do it.
Mm-hmm.
It happens in different states. Whoever's in power, they do it. So in Michigan in 2010, the Republicans were in power, so they drew districts to benefit the Republican Party. In Maryland, the Democrats were in power, so they drew the districts to benefit the Democrats. Our position with Voters Not Politicians is neither party should do it.
Okay, right. Now, when you say they benefit them, how do they benefit themselves? Do they, I mean, it seems like people are people and...
Well, the data mining and the ability to identify and target voters is very, very sophisticated. So they could draw the maps, they can tell the consultants, the computer consultants that they hire to draw the maps, literally down to the block, to the house,
Yeah.
and say, we want these people, we would choose these people to be in this district, and we choose these people to be in that district. And it'll benefit us because we can keep as many of the minority party in fewer districts and as many of the majority party in more districts.
I see, so you'd have all the Democrats in Michigan's case in one district, and then Republicans could win 3, they would win 1.
That's right. And what happened is, even though Michigan votes approximately 50-50 with respect to Republicans and Democrats in national elections, our 14 United States representatives are divided 9 Republicans and 5 Democrats.
I see.
So that does not accurately reflect how the people of Michigan vote.
Right, right. And the same goes for the State House and State Senate.
Correct.
Because those are both the Republican majorities.
Yes, and very much so, and they're drawn in the 60% range in favor of Republicans, because you can't eliminate 50% of the voters.
Sure, sure.
You could just minimize their impact.
By putting them into one spot. So you mentioned there's this, it looked like a salamander. Are there examples like that in Michigan where we'd see some districts that are oddly shaped?
Oh yes, oh yes.
Wait, would you mind looking at an example?
Be happy to.
All right, let's take a look. Okay, so this is the Michigan 14th Congressional District.
Correct, and it extends from northern Oakland County, Pontiac,
Okay.
this is on the southeast side of the state, through West Bloomfield, Southfield, across 8 Mile Road pretty much, into eastern Detroit, then southwestern Detroit. So it encompasses 2 different counties, and except for where the arrow shows us a little piece of Farmington that's been cut out and put into the district below it.
Is that, so the district we're seeing is predominantly Democrat,
Yes.
right? And the Farmington Hills, that's a little Republican area that they carved out
Yes, to help the district
next to it.
next to it, right.
Okay, let's take a look at what it's around it. So,
Here is another picture. You can see District 14. District 14 voted 80%
okay,
Democratic in the last election. District 11, where the little piece of Farmington Hills has been
Sure.
carved out, voted 2% in favor of the Republican candidate. And District 9 similarly had a much lower, I'm not sure exactly, but a much lower percentage in favor of the Republican. So you can see the way the district curves and makes
yeah, that's a pretty,
interesting twists and turns.
no, not a lot of straight, long lines there.
But I think the thing that's most evident is that of the 29% extra votes that the candidate in District 14 got, if any of those were in District 11 or District 9, those districts could have gone in the opposite direction.
All right, so like District 11, if it didn't have that little carve out of Farmington Hills, may have gone for the Democratic candidate, but it went for the Republican instead.
Correct, by 2%.
By 2%.
Right.
Wow, so just a little bit would have made a huge difference.
It does, and it's very, 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 very carefully done to protect the majority, and it's harmful in 2 ways. In one way, in District 14, that representative obviously doesn't have to pay much attention to the minority voters in her district because they voted 30%. They have no influence. But she doesn't really have to pay a lot of attention to her own party's voters because she is so secure in that district that she could lose 29% of the vote and still win. So, you know, that gives people, representatives, the opportunity to listen to lobbyists and donors, but not necessarily their voters.
Sure, right, right. And you said this is not only happening, I mean, there's other parts of the state where we see this as well.
Right. Here's the Michigan 76th State House District. That is in Grand Rapids.
Right
and
around
it's
it,
one of the
yeah.
most creatively drawn districts. It's very, very specific. And I'm
like,
not even sure which party it benefits, frankly.
Yeah.
It benefits one of them. I'm not even sure which. Here's a picture of a street in that district. It's Woodward Lane in Grand Rapids. And on that street, there are 3 properties that are in 3 different house districts.
Right next to each other, neighbors.
Right, neighbors. This illustrates how specific and how detailed
Wow.
the drawing of these maps can be.
Yeah, and the map itself kind of looks like something from Tetris or something.
Yes.
That's not, Oh, wow. And so you said also this is not simply something that happens in Michigan. You said Maryland as well has
Yes.
this?
In Michigan, the Republicans are drawing these because they were in power in 2010. In Maryland, the Democrats were the majority party in 2010, so they redo their districts very creatively, and this is a very pretty picture of how the districts are drawn.
Maryland isn't a real straight state to begin with, but they still could do better than that.
This is West Virginia in here, and then you've got the Chesapeake Bay. So right, they can't draw square districts because there's not a square state.
Right.
But here's the evolution of Maryland's 3rd district. In the 83rd Congress.
It was pretty compact there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, it was pretty compact. It evolved to the 113th Congress to be basically house by house, street by street.
Wow.
Picking the voters that would benefit the party in power.
Right. So in this case, it's the Democrats.
In this case,
Michigan case, it's the Republicans.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
Well, thank you. Those are pretty good examples.
Thank you.
So we've now seen these examples of that are quite strong about how districts that are craftily made by the data for these parties in charge, the independent redistricting. Or Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission.
Right.
It's a lot of things to say there. How are they going to do it? I know it's not. What are they composed of? Or what's that group composed of? And how will it be different?
Well, what will happen is that the commission is composed of 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, and 5 independent voters who are not affiliated with either of those 2 parties.
Yes.
They are chosen through a random process that the Secretary of State will govern. He or she, whoever the Secretary of State is, will administer. And people can apply, and 10,000 applications will be sent out randomly to registered voters, asking them if they want to apply. And by a process of elimination, we'll end up with the 13 people who will be on the committee.
Is there certain qualifications you need to have to be on that?
You have to be a registered voter, you have to apply and fill out the application, and you cannot be an elected official, the immediate relative of an elected official, or a lobbyist.
Okay.
That's essentially the group that cannot be on it.
That can't be on it. Interesting. And so that's, let's see, how many people total?
13.
13. So 4, 4, and 5, right?
That's right.
And how are they going to make decisions?
Well, they will be able to hire consultants, and there will be a set of criteria in Proposal 2 that they have to follow in order to draw the districts. There will be town halls throughout the state to gather information from people, asking them how they think their district should look.
That's not currently done, right?
No, it's all done in secret.
It's in secret.
It's all done in secret.
So they want this to be more transparent, what they're doing.
Absolutely, it'll be very transparent. And then in order for a map to be approved by the commission, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and 2 independents have to approve it. And that prevents either party from ganging up with the independents and influencing the maps.
Okay.
And so it's as objective, and it requires as much cooperation as possible.
So one restriction they'd have is they need to follow the law, such as the Voting Rights Act.
Correct.
What other criteria will they have to keep in mind? I mean, to not make them look so crazy?
Yes, right. Well, right now, none, other than partisan benefit. Partisan benefit will be absolutely not allowed.
Okay.
The districts are supposed to be contiguous, so there's no big gap between the districts. The intention is to keep communities of interest together. So communities like Whitehall and Montague, for example, have similar interests, similar concerns. They
shouldn't be broken up.
They shouldn't be broken up and split up, right. And so that would be one of the criteria, to keep them as compact as possible and to honor and respect city, township, and county boundaries as much
Okay.
as possible.
Right, right. Well, those seem to make some sense.
Yes.
Rather than, currently, as you said, we have nothing other than partisan
That's right.
decision-making.
Right.
Interesting. Now, just to be clear again, the 13 people who are on this commission,
Right.
I understand the process of 10,000 people going, applications being sent out to people, then people send them in. You can want to be on it
Yes.
and do it that way. Who ultimately makes the choices on those 13 people?
Well, it'll be winnowed down, and at a level before the last 13, both parties can strike up to 20 people.
Okay,
And so obviously they can look and see if there's somebody that they don't think should be on the commission, won't be fair. But ultimately, they'll be randomly chosen from the people who make it up to the last
Right.
level by the Secretary of State's office, totally randomly.
interesting. So it's kind of like a court.
Yeah, it's like a
picking
jury
a
pick.
jury.
Picking a jury,
And
very
we
similar.
we think of those as pretty fair.
Yes.
Ways to go about it. Interesting. So, has this ever been done before? Is this come out of thin air, or do other states do it?
Yes, about 13 states have some form of an independent citizens redistricting commission, or at least a bipartisan redistricting commission that takes it out of the hands of the legislators themselves, but puts a separate group together to do it in a bipartisan way. And we're fairly confident, because we've gotten a lot of national attention, this effort, that if it passes, when it passes on November 6th, that other states will adopt it.
Okay.
They'll take the ball and run with it.
And these other states that have it, are there differences compared to what Michigan is looking at?
Well, California is the closest to what
Okay.
Michigan is doing. Other states have variations on a theme, but the goal is all the same, which is to get it out of the politicians' hands and get it into a group of people who are more objective and have other criteria to follow.
Okay. One of the criticisms I've heard of this, and I'll let you reply, is that this is really just a Democratic attempt to take over for themselves redistricting. Is that true?
No, because as I've demonstrated, both parties do it,
Right.
and our position is neither party should do it. The Republicans have done it in Michigan in 2010 because they were in power. And to say that is to say that it's okay to leave the majority, and a sizable majority, of Republican districts versus Democratic districts. Guaranteed, if the Democrats take over in 2018 and 2020, after the 2020 census, they'll do it.
They'll do it too.
But we don't want them to.
Okay.
We want an independent citizens redistricting commission to do it.
All right. And the voters, not politicians, are some of your volunteers affiliated with the Republican Party?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We have a number of primarily former legislators that were Republican legislators, and also many of the volunteers that I've worked with are independents, Republicans, Democrats. We don't really discuss that,
I see.
but sometimes in a conversation
It'll
it's
come
pretty
up.
evident.
Yeah, right. But so you're more for the cause. Than
That's right. It's nonpartisan.
Right,
It's
right.
definitely nonpartisan.
I think I heard that Arnold Schwarzenegger was supportive of this effort.
Yes, he is.
Okay.
He's very much supportive of it. A number of Republicans are,
Okay.
as are Democrats.
Sure, sure. Well, good. Do you think, though, that this will harm Republicans, or just maybe in the short term it might harm them? But it just depends, I guess.
I guess it just depends, because it'll be fair. It'll be fair to Republicans.
Okay.
And it'll be fair to Democrats.
Sure.
And so I guess it depends on how you define harm, but we don't think so.
It'll be fair.
It'll be
Okay.
fair.
And is this a change in our Constitution?
Yes. Proposal 2 amends the Constitution, the Michigan Constitution. That can be done by the legislature, but it can be done by the people of Michigan.
Okay.
And they do it by petitioning and then getting a proposal on the ballot.
So the legislators who may not like this because it's taken out of their hands, they can't stop it if this passes.
That's absolutely correct.
Well, that's good.
Yes.
That's good. Yeah. So why don't we look at what exactly people are going to be seeing when they go to the ballot? So let's look at that sample ballot. Okay, so here we are with Proposal 2, and this is what we'll see, I understand, when we get whether we get our ballot in the mail or whether we go and vote on November 6th. This is the proposal and what it'll say. Right?
That's right. Proposal 2 is a proposed constitutional amendment to establish a commission of citizens with exclusive authority to adopt district boundaries for the Michigan Senate, Michigan House of Representatives, and U.S. Congress every 10 years. And then the actual language of the proposal is also here.
Okay, so it's what we talked about with 13 registered voters randomly selected by the Secretary of State, 4 from each party of the 2 major parties, I should say.
Yes.
And 5 who identify as unaffiliated.
Right.
And then prohibit partisan office holders and candidates and their employees and lobbyists, as you mentioned, and establish this new criteria. It must be compact, contiguous districts of equal population, reflect Michigan's diverse population and communities of interest. So pretty straightforward, exactly what you said, and require an appropriation of funds for commission operations and commissioner compensation. So if you're on this commission, you will get some compensation for doing that, right?
Yes. The proposal says that the compensation will be, according to law, what commissioners are paid on other commissions. Mm-hmm. But it won't be for 10 years. It'll only be for the time it takes from the time of the census till the 2012 election, 2022 election.
Okay, 2022.
So it'll be mostly in 2021.
Okay. So, all right. Well, thank you for showing us that. Okay. All right. So they'll just be working for about a year, and they'll be compensated for that. And do you think that would be like a full-time job for a year? Or
No, it's not anticipated it will be. There will be meetings. It'll take time because there will be the town halls and the public meetings, and then there would be the meetings to draw the maps after the consultants that are hired give them some maps to work with. Mm-hmm. So it'll take some time, but I don't anticipate, no one anticipates it'll be a full-time job.
And I assume there would be restrictions that they couldn't take money from any group or people. Yeah, that's not
absolutely.
allowed, right? Okay.
No.
Keep it fair, right?
That's right.
What do you think do you think if this passes, you mentioned there was already an attempt to stop it, not be on the ballot.
Right.
Will there be another attempt, do you think, to stop it to go in and be law?
We are seeing opposition.
Mm-hmm.
No one steps forward and says gerrymandering is a good thing, let's stick with it.
Yeah.
We're seeing objections, for example, that one objection we see is that the politicians should do it because they're experts. Mm-hmm. They know how to do it,
right.
And this commission won't know how to do it. Well, the commission obviously will have assistants.
You said consultants they can hire.
Right, that they can hire, and they have the criteria to follow. My point I make in response to that is that we elect politicians from the community to go and represent us. And in fact, in Michigan, we have term limits, which was intended to prevent career politicians from staying in Lansing forever.
Right.
And so just as we expect our people from the community to get elected to go to Lansing and then eventually come back, there's no reason why people from the community can't serve on this commission and do as well, if not a better job.
Sure. There's not really a degree in redistricting, I don't think.
No, there's not. No, I think it's called just democracy and civic duty and things like that.
Yeah. So hopefully, it seems like you could figure this out.
Yes.
Even though I'm sure there'll be pressures on both sides to promote their party over. But then there's the unaffiliated ones, and you have to get a consensus, as you mentioned.
That's right.
So
you're committing. If you're on the commission, you're committing to reaching a consensus.
Mm-hmm.
You're cooperating and to compromising, because it can't happen any other way.
Right, right. And probably that first time in 2021, that will be the toughest.
Probably,
And then after that, hope to every 10 years, it'll get a little easier.
yeah. I would anticipate that's true, yep.
Hopefully, all right. Well, thank you for talking about Proposal 2.
Thank you.
And appreciate you being on the show.
Well, I appreciate your having us. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
And good luck.
Vote yes on November 6th.
November 6th, right. Well, thank you everyone for watching Timely Topics. We've been talking to Judy Simonson from Voters Not Politicians about Proposal 2. And yeah, do remember to vote on November the 6th. And until next time, have a great day.